Is this Mr. Matt Hardy?
Yes, this is. How are you guys?
Doing well, sir. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Right.
How's your night going?
It's going good. Busy. It's a busy time. Lots of stuff going on. Everything that I can possibly be doing besides WWE and TNA right now, I am doing. So I'm kind of on top of it, man. I have a full schedule, but it's good because I'm not under contract. I still have a normal life, and I'm enjoying everything. I'm newly married, and I'm a very, very happy and healthy
Congratulations.
man. Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it.
No problem. And one thing I've noticed for sure is, like you mentioned, you although you have a busy plate, you've been having so much fun. I mean, you've traveled to so many different organizations, whether it be Ring of Honor, TNA. Most recently, I think even my co-host Austin was telling me that you guys were there with in Louisiana, and I can't even pronounce the name of the city. Austin, help me out here. What's the name of your city?
Yeah, Houma, Louisiana. Matt Hardy. October, you wrestled Steve Anthony at Elite Championship Wrestling for the title. And that's tonight. Yeah. I sent you a Twitter message. I'm like, oh, my God, Matt Hardy is magical. I'm not even kidding. Jesus Christ. Yes, you're, I mean, the way, when you walked in, everybody, I've never heard that building get that loud, ever.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hey, the man's got it, man. He's had it all these years.
It's one of those things, man. I've got to that point in life, and I think also as a performer where I feel like I've really connected the dots, and I'm having a lot of fun. There's a lot of great talent out there. Steve Anthony's one of those guys, and even to come into these smaller venues that are a little more intimate is a lot of fun. And I can go out there and I feel like I can work magic, and not only can I do things to make myself look good, but I can make my opponent to look good, and in the entire process, entertain the people. So that's what I'm living for more than anything else. I want the people to leave and go, wow, I had a great time tonight. I was entertained and that was fun. I want to do it again.
Amen to that, man. Yeah. And getting the chance to work with some of the biggest names in wrestling, even as far back as when you were in WWE up to now, was there anybody in particular that when you got the chance to actually work with them, you almost, let's just say as a fan, you had, say, a quote-unquote mark-out moment? Briefly, of course. But, did you ever actually have that moment with anybody you worked with?
By the time you actually get to WWE and you work on that level, you kind of get past that stage, and it becomes really a job in so many ways. But I think what you're referring to and what I would compare is the first example, the first thing that would come to my mind is just The Undertaker, because I wrestled The Undertaker several times, and I literally felt like I grew up watching him, because he debuted in 90, 91, and I was younger and wanting to get into wrestling at that time. I was a teenager, and I remember he was one of the guys. I was like, oh my God, this guy's awesome, and I watched him at home as a fan through the TV, and getting the chance to work with him later on, and he's just so amazing, and he's probably the guy I have more respect for than anyone else. That was, to me, definitely signified like, wow, you've made it. You're on a huge high level right now, and you've done well for yourself. So that was quite an honor to be able to wrestle and work against The Undertaker.
Absolutely. I actually remember one particular match that stood out to me the most was when they brought Superstars back, and you actually were in the main event with him for the debut return of Superstars.
Yeah.
Just happened to stick out to me because that was really one of my favorite matches I'd seen of you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, that's actually during the time period, if I'm not mistaken, when Jeff and I were in a feud, and actually I was wearing tights.
Yes,
and I wrestled Undertaker. I had him in the leech or the ice pick. It's been called many different things, but I had him on submission hold for a while in that match too.
Yep.
Now, besides actually getting, The Undertaker being a inspiration to you, before getting into wrestling, who was the inspiration to actually want you to even think about doing this?
The first guy I was hooked upon as a fan was the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Whenever I started following his career, in the mid-'80s when I started watching wrestling in the first place, and he went to WrestleMania 4, and he was my favorite. I wanted to see him win the title, and he won the title. And from that day on, from WrestleMania 4 on, I never missed an episode. I was all about it, and Macho Man was my guy, and he was the guy that made me want to be a wrestler.
Did you ever get a chance to meet him?
Yeah, I did. I met him a few times when we first went to WWE, just doing extra work or whatever it may have been, and we got to interact a little bit, and he was cool. I have nothing but great things to say about Macho Man.
Very cool, very cool. Now, getting the opportunity to do the infamous ladder match that you did back in '99, obviously Brett and Sean set the bar pretty high, but you guys, I think, took it to the very next level. Is it? I know you get asked that question quite a bit about that particular ladder match because it had such an impact on so many people that watched. What was it like experiencing that moment for you?
I mean, it was one of those things. I mean, Sean is the guy that put the ladder match on the map, obviously, with his match against Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. But, I mean, once myself and my brother...
Yes, you said it right. I'm sorry.
And once myself and my brother and Edge and Christian, once we had that first ever ladder match, we completely elevated it to a different level, and then it evolved into the TLC match. And we actually made it into an attraction. We made it into a spectacle that was like something that people would pay to see. I mean, it spawned into Money in the Banks, and it spawned into the TLC pay-per-view. And to sit back and think that we were the pioneers of that, and there's a niche of wrestling, WWE wrestling, which is, you know, perceived as obviously the largest company in the world, and as it is, you know, we have a niche that we created that happened that night. It feels very special, and it's quite flattering and humbling to think back that, you know, it was 4 guys who were just busting their ass to get over and get a spot and to end up being superstars. And it really worked, and it became something very, very special.
And, you know, looking back at that, I mean, you guys started a revolution because people still to this day talk about that match as being one of the best matches in WrestleMania history.
That one particular one that was October 99 is what I was talking about.
Yeah, the No Mercy was in October 99, but then it followed up with a triple threat ladder match at WrestleMania, and then the TLCs came at WrestleManias and SummerSlams thereafter. But still, I hear almost daily, at least weekly, that, you know, those matches, the TLC matches or the ladder matches, are someone's favorite match, you know, in the course of my travels. And man, it's extremely humbling. I mean, looking back, that was, you know, 12 to 14 years ago when all that stuff went down, and, you know, people are still talking about it. We were very blessed and lucky to be doing it when wrestling was so hot. It was in that golden age of the Attitude Era, you know, and we just had a great opportunity, and we took advantage of it. We snagged it, you know. But the fact that people still remember right now is just truly a humbling fact.
And getting the opportunity that you did to actually go to the TNA, were you attempting, well, it may sound like a silly question, and if it does, I apologize, but going into TNA, you sported a new look. You sported the dreadlocks. Was it something to try to pull yourself away from the WWE's version of Matt Hardy to kind of create your more darker version? Or, I mean, what your thoughts going into TNA?
I mean, at that point, really, I mean, looking back, like, I have a lot of respect for TNA, and I think they're doing a good job, and I think it's important, and I want nothing more than for TNA to survive and thrive, because it gives an alternative for the fans. It gives also another place for all the talented men and women of wrestling to go and work. You know, when I went to TNA, I was so hurt those last couple of years of WWE. I wish I would have just taken a year off or 2 years off and let my body heal and get back into the cycle after busting my ass for 13, 14 years. But when I went ahead and went to TNA, they gave me a pretty good deal that was hard to turn down, and I was going to be reunited with my brother, and that was a huge selling point in it. And whenever I went there, I mean, obviously the whole idea was to reinvent myself and do something different. And yeah, I think that the dreadlocks was a different look, and considering I was bad, it was supposed to be like, you know, more of a villainous approach, and I tried to create a new character. I mean, that was the whole plan of doing that. And, you know, it's one of those things. I think there was a lot of potential there, and I just wasn't in the right place physically or mentally at that point. I needed time off because I was so burnt out, and it's such a dark, bitter, injured place. And you know, I finally took time off after that, and did what I need to do to kind of reestablish myself, and now I feel like I'm $1 million. And the most important thing to me now, more than being in the wrestling bubble and going, is to wrestle and do great and do good, but then come back and realize, like, I'm not a machine. I'm a human being and enjoy my life, and I'm enjoying my life more than I ever have right now.
I don't think I could have said it any better. Very well said, man. But you carried that tradition on into Ring of Honor, where you actually got to, I got to say, there's very few people that can pull off a craft of being a really, really good bad guy, at least in my opinion. I mean, I'm just looking at it from a fan's perspective, but seeing you be a part of Scum and just the fun that you guys had in Ring of Honor, it was very enjoyable to watch. And on occasion I did catch it, but I know my co-host caught it a lot more every week, and he was just loving it and getting a kick out of everything you guys were doing with Ring of Honor.
Yeah, it was an absolute blast. I mean, from the first day I started there all the way through, I mean, it was. I appreciate the passion of those fans, and especially how they support their Ring of Honor originals. And they have their guys that are Ring of Honor guys that haven't made it to the mainstream, which they kind of equate to selling out. And they support those guys, you know. so passionately, so passionately, it's incredible. And to be able to come in as a WWE representative, a guy who has made it before and who's mainstream, who's taking their TV time and taking their ring time, and to get booed and get the reaction that I did from those fans. I mean, for me, that's like a performer's dream, So it was great, and I really took it and maximized it. I embraced everything they threw at me, and I threw right back at them, and it made for very, very fun, entertaining TV in my opinion.
Steve Corino, that guy, I loved, and people know what I'm talking about when I say Steve Corino and Matt Hardy over the summer. The stuff that he said about on commentary, just on any event, and getting in the ring and doing this 5-minute introduction was so awesome. The way he did it was perfect. You got everybody mad.
Steve was so instrumental in the success that we had, during that run, and Steve's a great guy. He's a phenomenal human being. He's an amazing performer. I can't say enough good things about Steve either. And we were friends because Steve came and worked with us back in Omega back in the day. Before any of us ever got a break, before he went to ECW, or before we went to WWE, or before Shane and Shannon went to WCW. And to be reunited with him after all those years and get to do the thing we did, man, it was just such a blast. And he really was instrumental to making it as good as it was, because he's such an incredible performer.
Very well said, very true. And that would lead me to something that I believe both Austin and yourself, Matt, that can actually educate me a little bit, because I'm curious how this war that's going to come to a head on December 28th for Extreme Rising, how this war came to be between you and Luke Hawx. How did it start? And apparently you're going to continue at Extreme Rising, because you guys got a grudge match, and from what I've heard, there's no love lost, and it's going to be a hell of a match.
It's a really simple story in the big scheme of things. I mean, I actually met Luke Hawx in 2003, 2004. He actually came to WWE as a young, upstart ring guy trying to get a spot, and I tried to help him out back in the day. And we were kind of half-ass friends in some ways. And I would talk to him every couple of years, whatever. I would try and help him out if I could. He worked real hard. He got himself into shape, and he grew up a little bit. And he got a couple good opportunities for himself. And then we got to the Extreme Rising show, and I thought we were cool and okay. And then there came an incident where I was wrestling Shane Douglas in the main event of their November show last year in Pittsburgh. And there was a deal where I was going up on the top rope to push Shane Douglas to the table, and he came out and pushed me off the top rope. And it's one of those things where, everyone knows wrestling's entertainment to a degree, but I had no idea he was coming in, and he shoved me as hard as he possibly could, and I crashed and burned, and I legitimately knocked myself out on the concrete. I had a concussion. I went into convulsions, and I was out for 90 seconds, and I was throwing up all over the place. And the thing was, I understand accidents happen in this business. That comes with the territory. You're going to get hurt. If you're going to be a professional wrestler, you are going to get hurt. That's what happens. You're going to have surgery. You're going to get knocked out. You're going to have concussions. You're going to get hit. You're going to get hurt. But then the thing was, Luke Hawx never apologized. He actually went on and glorified the incident and kind of took credit for it and said, to hell with Matt Hardy. He's yesterday's news. I pushed him off. I'm glad I did it, and he deserved it. To hell with him. And it was that standpoint that made the hostility so strong between both of us, and it hasn't stopped since then. We've fought on 3 occasions already, and we beat the hell out of each other. I mean, you go to work. Everyone that exists in this earth that gets to a mature age and has to go to work eventually, you work with some people you like, you work with some people you don't necessarily like, but you guys work together for the greater good, and you get the job done. And that's just what we do. Like, Luke Hawx and I do not like each other. He's constantly on Twitter insulting, my wife, my family, my friends, whatever it may be, and, I'll dump that right back at him. But once we come to Philly and we're there in the ECW arena, he's going to have, like, his load of fans, and I'm going to have my load of fans, and it's going to be intense, to say the least. And it's going to be a show-stealing match, and I don't think there's going to be any match on the card that the crowd is going to be more emotionally invested in.
I don't think I can disagree with that anyway. I know that Austin will agree with that as well, because I think you've gotten to see some of their matches too, right, Austin?
Most definitely, and you can actually, the Extreme Rising event, December 28th, with Matt Hardy versus Luke Hawx, grudge match. You can get tickets at extremetix.com. It's Extreme TIXS. It's a short version of tickets, I guess, but .com, and it's actually going to be broadcasting from the ECW arena in Philadelphia, which is a pretty cool additive to that event. I mean, just the ECW arena itself makes it that much more extreme, for a show like this. And I think there's nowhere better this match should take place for a grudge match between you and Luke Hawx, and I'm looking forward to it. And I know the fans of Extreme Rising are looking forward to it.
It truly does, and you're totally right there, Austin. I mean, being in the ECW arena just exponentially rises the level of extreme emotion to the event. And, the fans that are going to be there, they take pride in what ECW and what Paul Heyman and his entire roster created in that building. That building is historic. And for me, it's going to be cool to go there and wrestle because I've never been there. I've never got a chance to wrestle there. My brother and I were this close to signing with ECW before we actually signed with WWE. So if we hadn't signed with WWE, we would have ended up in ECW. But the fact of the matter is, Matt Hardy actually debuts in the ECW arena. Luke Hawx will be making his first appearance there as well. And it's going to be a passionate, magical, emotional night. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I can promise you that.
The only thing that's missing would have to be Joey Styles with his infamous, oh, my God. I can't do it like him, but, Joey Styles definitely was a huge part of ECW as well. And I think just to hear his voice calling your match would be awesome. I would think, but, I mean, that's just the ECW fan in me at that point. So,
I mean, absolutely. I mean, ECW was a revolution. It couldn't compete on the same level as Vince or WCW at that time, but it pushed both of them to be better because it was so different and it was so cutting edge and it was so innovative, and it forced WWE and WCW to be better. And ECW, what they were doing, eventually spawned the Attitude Era, which also, with WCW and the NWO head-to-head, which made the business go to the greatest place it's ever been. So, I mean, ECW has a huge responsibility in that, and those fans that started everything in ECW arena played a big part in the wrestling boom coming back in the late 90s.
And I can't even imagine how it would be if you guys actually signed, you and Jeff signed with ECW and eventually, went on with them. To the matches that you guys would probably, have would be undescribable. Just for that old ECW feel that even with, and I don't know if I'm bad for saying this, but even with the new version of ECW that WWE brought in, a few years ago, ECW, they would never replicate the actual feeling of how they had it at the old ECW arena in Philadelphia. And hopefully they can recapture that feeling just a little bit, in the December 28th at Extreme Rising.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a good shot because the thing is, like, the ECW version of WWE, I mean, WWE was a publicly traded company. They were very limited in what they could do, and there were certain parameters they had to stay within. As a performer, I wanted to go out and do as much as I could, but all the time, my bosses and my superiors would try and reel me back in to kind of, make sure that it was politically correct for a publicly traded company. As ECW champion, I wanted to pay as much tribute as I could to the original ECW. But here now with Extreme Rising, it's an independently owned company. It's a lot of independently owned act, and there's not corporate sponsors, and there's not big advertisers that they have to worry about. I mean, things can go wild, and as a performer, I can say this as a fan, that's exciting because you don't know what to expect. Anything can happen, and that's what makes being a wrestling fan so great. When you go to an event, anything is possible tonight. There's no limits. There's no parameters.
Very well said. Very true. And going back a little bit to one version a character that you portrayed way back was the Matt Hardy version 1, and I got to say the Mattitude facts were classic. And I got to ask, how did those come about? Were there something that was your creation? Was it creative? I kind of doubt that, but I had a feeling this is kind of more your creation. Could you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, I actually came up with the whole version 1 idea. I originally pitched that idea as the name of a group for myself, my brother, Edge, and Christian to actually take on DX when we were kind of all four good guys. And that I didn't go through, so I put it in my back pocket, and then once I split from Jeff, I pushed really hard to be version 1 and say, well, now I am the true version, the full version of myself. You're not seeing an extension of Matt Hardy as far as one of the Hardy Boys. You're seeing the true Matt Hardy. And Mattitude was something I came up with, and Vince and everyone down loved that. And as we were going into the computer stuff, it was actually the entrance that I had, which was like a Windows Media Player, was I want to say someone in production, Kevin Dunn or one of the people that worked right underneath Kevin Dunn, it was their idea to do like a Windows Media Player for my entrance. And we were figuring out what to do, and I was going, if we blow the screen here, and I go, what if in here we put just like a random fact, like might pop up that was on websites back then that was kind of like the trend. And that's where the Matt Facts came to be. And I actually created all the mat packs with the exception of just a couple, which they had things that they stuck in that they wanted to plug at that time. And I'm very proud of that because people still talk about the mat packs to this day, and I'm very proud that was something that came from my mind, and it was my original idea, and I take a lot of pride in it. I still do them now. If you go to my website, MattHardyBrands.com, there's a new mat pack that goes up every week, a new original mat pack, so we're keeping the tradition alive.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And going back a little further than from WWE, you guys, when you were younger, your group of friends that you guys had that are still pretty close today, obviously Shane and your brother and a few others and Shannon, did the Omega thing. What's that? Could you tell us a little bit about what Omega is all about?
Yes. Omega basically it stands for the Organization of Modern Extreme Grappling Arts. It's the promotion that I started originally in 1993. And then once around 1996 rolled around or so, we found Shane and met up with him and his partner and a couple of friends, and we kind of all combined, and we really all worked together to make this work succeed. And we had 12 or 13 guys from Omega that went on to sign contracts with major organizations. And then we kind of all went our separate ways. You know, we all made it. We worked for the bigger companies. And then now that we're kind of back doing our own thing, there's a lot of young guys out there that need a place to learn. They need veterans who have knowledge and experience to learn from. And myself and Shane Helms have been doing some more shows. And originally Shane really kicked it and was responsible for working with, really producing and promoting the first couple of shows. But now we've kind of definitely worked together in conjunction a lot more, and we're doing more shows going forward. The next one we have is February 22nd, 2013 in Smithville. And it's going to be myself, Shane, Gunner from TNA, Christian York, C.W. Anderson, a ton of talent. And there's a very good chance that Jeff Hardy's going to be on that show as well.
Hey, anything can happen, as we've seen in the last one, where Will of the Wisp actually made a surprise return to the event, which is really interesting to see that happen. I mean, I don't think anybody was expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing I try to take pride in. I mean, it's easy to be an armchair booker or sit back and go, oh, well, Raw wasn't good because of this, this, and this, or I wish they would have did this or surprised us with this, and same thing with TNA. Yeah. And, for me, it's one of those things like, instead of griping about it, I would rather go do it myself. And we've had great shows. I mean, the first show we did, Channel Life for Chuck, there was 1,400 people in the building. And then the following show we did, where it was Support the Sport, there was 1,100. And even the one where Willow returned, it was in a more rural community, but there were still 800 or 900 people there. I mean, we've done great and had great drawing shows, and we continue to do so. I mean, we're lucky because we all went out with made good things for ourselves, and we all have a good idea of how to do this and do this right. And the fans that have came to our shows have been so complimentary of the shows, not only from the match quality and the way the whole show is structured, but also the surprises and the way the show is structured. And I take a lot of pride in that. And I know Shane Helms does as well, and he's got a brilliant wrestling mind on his own. But we really work hard to give the fans a great product. And I think that's something the wrestling business needs to continue to evolve in, especially like from the level of WWE and TNA. They need to make sure to just be the most intelligent and sophisticated product possible, because the old mentality of wrestling was, well, it's just wrestling, the fans will forget about it, or, this storyline happened, but now we want to go in a different direction, so just kind of drop it. You can't do that in this golden age of TV. TV is so good. Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, Sons of Anarchy, whatever it may be. Wrestling cannot it cannot insult the intelligence of its fans. Wrestling has to be sophisticated, consistent storytelling with continuity, and that's one thing I really am set on, and I will continue to preach until it happens.
Well, I actually think that it would be fun for you. I mean, I don't know if you've ever considered doing it, but I know a lot of the former stars or stars in WWE, let me rephrase that, have gone on to do things like not just movies, not just TV, but I mean podcasts. And I know Shane had done his, and I think still does his from time to time. But has that ever been something that you would ever consider doing, maybe sometime in the future?
Yeah, I know it's certainly becoming a more popular trend, and I know I just spoke with Jericho recently in an appearance, and we actually got to kind of catch up for a while. We haven't seen each other in a bit. And I know he just started his recently, and Stone Cold has been massively successful. And down the road, it would be something I'd be interested in.
Very cool, very cool. Now I got to ask, if it's okay, would you be okay, Matt, if you answered a couple of fans' questions, or would you be okay with that?
Sure.
It won't be too many. I mean, if anything, I got one right now that's on hold here, if you're okay, and I'll bring him on. Here we go. Okay, you're on the air with Matt Hardy. You have a question for him? Go ahead.
Hey, Matt Hardy, it's Jagger Lane.
What's going on, man?
Not much, just doing cardio before the big show this weekend. But I just wanted to know, how was it filming pro wrestling versus zombies? I mean, I saw you were doing that and everything. It was amazing.
Yeah, I have a huge role in that movie, and I was lucky and blessed to be like one of the feature stars, and got to check out the movie and preview it, and it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the wrestling fans seeing it, because if you're a wrestling fan, I think you'll enjoy it. I like to describe the movie as a comedy wrapped in horror. So it was a lot of fun, and being able to work with Roddy Piper's another guy I grew up working, being able to work with him on the same level in an acting scenario in a movie was a lot of fun for me.
It looks phenomenal from what I see on YouTube. Like, from what I saw and everything, it looks phenomenal. I can't wait until it comes out. I'm excited. Just being a fan and plus being a worker, I'm excited for it, and I can't wait to meet you in February at FSW. So,
very good.
Good luck with everything.
You got it, man. Take care of yourself.
Thanks for calling in,
down the road.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that was cool. Didn't realize he'd be doing exercises, but hey, nonetheless, more power to him. But as far as the if the fans want to keep up with what you're doing, nowadays, obviously you mentioned the website, which I believe it has links to all your social media. Do you have does it have to your fan page or your fan page on Facebook, or does it go directly to your personal? You have a personal page.
It's all pretty simple. I mean, my website is matthardybrand.com, and then my YouTube is youtube.com/Matt Hardy Brand, twitter.com/Matt Hardy Brand. My Facebook is facebook.matthardybrand.com. I update everyone on there and my website of what's going on, and kind of keep people present with current events and just also little fun facts. I mean, there's a lot of great wrestling knowledge that I share between my Facebook and Twitter and my website. And then considering Christmas is coming around, the coolest merch you'll find on the site, on the coolest shop, is at shopmatthardy.com. So do that, and we promise you get your order by Christmas if you go order today.
There you go. And one thing I wanted to touch on real quick, and just to get an idea of what it was like. I mean, the atmosphere it was like as far as working with Edge. I would say Adam Copeland, but Edge during the 2005. Was it? I mean, was a lot of it more personal than it appeared to be on TV? I mean, nothing too. Well, I don't know how to put this, but more like, was it as real as it seemed? Was it fun? Was it too much intensity? Was it? I mean, what was the rivalry like between the two of you? I don't really know how else to describe it.
It wasn't as real as it seemed. It became a lot more entertainment than reality. Although there were threads of it that started as real, but as a performer, that's what I look to do, and that's what I look to do now more today than ever before. Because I want you as a viewer and any other viewer to not be able to be sure where the line of reality stops and the line of entertainment starts. So there was, obviously in the beginning, once this stuff was coming to fruition and a plan was coming together, there were some tense moments. But once we worked things out, everyone was a professional, and we did business. And it was truly entertainment. It was so much more exaggerated, and people play into it a lot more than a lot more seriously than it really was. But it was looking back, it was a very emotional roller coaster of a ride, and for me, I'm very proud that it turned out that good.
You know what, though? You guys made it very, very believable, so kudos to the three of you for a hell of a job, because you definitely had everybody fooled, and I'm not going to lie, you had me pulled in, too, because it was such an intense, you felt the intensity between you two, and it just made for that much better TV for me as a fan to watch. So I thank you for that. Very, very entertaining stuff.
Thank you.
Not a problem. I was going to do one last call, if that's okay, and if Austin has any other questions, we'll get him going, and then that'll be it right there.
All right, cool. Yeah, we'll do one more, and we'll get out of here. I got to go call Mama. She's all working tonight.
Oh yes. These best wishes to your wife as well for the holiday season. We'd love to get her back on here or with you as well, maybe in the future. But one last call. Here we go. All right, you're on the air with Matt Hardy. So, what's your question?
Hi, Matt. My question is, what was it like performing the new Brood entrance with your brother Jeff and Gangrel?
That was the funnest entrance I've ever done, especially when it legitimately always came up through the stage and the fire. It really, we were portraying vampires, but being put in that atmosphere and coming up through a ring of fire truly made you feel like a vampire or some sort of superhero or supervillain. So it was really cool. It was one of the funnest entrances I've ever done. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Absolutely. That's a great question.
I got to say, thank you. I watched a lot of vampire movies, and I got to tell you, you, sir, are my inspiration because as of right now, for the past couple of months, I've been reliving you and your brother Jeff back in the good old days of the WWE, and I just love you guys for everything y'all did with the WWE.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. It was great. It's always to meet you, Matt, and Merry Christmas so much. It was good talking to you, sir.
All righty. Well, that was fun. Austin, I want to go ahead and turn it over to you, pal. I know you've been kind of quiet there. So go ahead and we'll ask the final questions for tonight, and we'll go ahead and go from there. Go ahead.
I want to say thank you so much for everything you've done in your entire career. I have no clue how much respect you, and I always like to end this in asking, with people, well, this phrase is my favorite phrase of all time. What is the point of living a life if you don't at least do something remarkable? And you have done something remarkable with your career, and not many people actually get to go out and do that. And just thank you so much for everything that you've done. I respect you more than anything.
Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
And don't forget, guys, to tune into Extreme Rising on December 28th to see Matt Hardy get in the ring and have some, let's just say, a hell of a fight with Luke Hawx. Make sure you don't miss it. I believe he said it was Extreme. Tell us where they can find the tickets at, Austin.
ExtremeTickets.com.
There you go. And on behalf of Austin, Mr. Hardy, I want to thank you so much for taking time to come on here. Hopefully, we'd love to have you come back in 2014 with you and the missus, and we'll just have some fun and can do a part 2 of this, if that's okay with you.
You got it, man. We'll have to do it.
Absolutely. And we wish you both a very happy holiday season. Best to you and your family, sir.
All right, you too, man. Thanks. Take care, and thanks for having me on, man. And remember, Shop Matt Hardy. Christmas is coming up. ShopMattHardy.com.
There you go.
You guys take care, man. Adios.
Take
care, man. Bye-bye.